Before we start, I just want to clarify one thing. You're here because you want to make truly custom sites, right? Not these, or these, which I've seen plenty of videos on, and they're not bad, but I mean these, and these. Truly custom sites. And if this video does help you, please like and share this video to others who may need it. If you have any comments, put them down below. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's dive right into it. It's been just over 2 weeks since I've started using this website called WT Draw, and basically what it does is it allows you to make and import these kinds of sites into your War Thunder game itself. And you can also save them, upload them, and share them with other players. Now, this video will cover what you need, how to use the website, how to make a site, and then all the other bits on how to save those files, and finally end up with them in your game. I also cover some of my opinions and advice, as well as troubleshooting. Okay, let's advance. Making a custom user site or reticle is actually very simple indeed. All you need is a browser like Google, a laptop or PC, some sort of text viewer, so I use Notepad, and access to your War Thunder game files. So to make a site, I use this website, and yes, it is in Russian, but you can just use your browser and translate it to English, or you can just learn what the buttons mean. I'll point them all out now, and I'll go through them later in more detail as we get to them. The most used buttons will be your mouse, the control button, delete, and Z. Other than these, you'll only really use them when you're inputting names and file sizes here. This white grid here is your canvas. You'll find a focal point in the center, which I call the origin. The origin corresponds to the middle of your screen when you're playing War Thunder, so where you draw relative to this is where it will appear in game. Your left mouse button is for drawing, your right mouse button is for panning, and your middle mouse button scrolls for zooming and clicks to select. You can use Control to lock to a vertex, Control Z to undo, and Delete to delete. Let's go through it as we go along. Let's begin with drawing a line. Simply make sure you have the draw line icon selected, and then left click and drag from the start point to the end point. If you click and release, it will register, but nothing will be drawn. To adjust a line, you simply need to use the middle mouse button. Click it and hopefully your desired line will be selected. Now you can adjust the vertices on the X and Y axis. A note, when you use the middle mouse button, it will select the entity with the nearest midpoint. That is, if I select this line here, it will still select this down here. That is because the midpoint of this line is closer than the midpoint of this line to my cursor. If I move over here, you'll see that it's now been selected. The same goes for shapes when you're adjusting them. When you select a line or a shape, you'll also see the bottom right window open. Here, you can manually update the vertices. You can also draw solid shapes. However, WT Draw only allows you to draw quadratics. To do this, simply check that the Draw Shape icon is selected, and this time you only have to click, so you don't have to drag. Define the four corners of the shape. This will now fill that area with a solid black. To adjust the shape, it's the same. You drag each corner, and it will update the location. When drawing a shape, you may find that it doesn't allow you to make any shape with an internal angle of greater than 180 degrees, like this. You will see that it comes up with an error. Now, you can either break it up into two shapes, or you can simply adjust afterwards, which for some reason, it allows you to do. Lock your start or end point to an existing vertex, simply hold down the control button, and you will see that a small grey circle appears at the location it will lock to. Now you can hold down your left mouse button, release control, and drag away. This is useful when you want to sketch a sequence of lines and you don't want gaps such as this. Image for guidance, you can import it onto the canvas by either using its URL or by browsing your files. Once you have imported the image, you can use this box here to change the scale of your image and to move it horizontally and vertically. Of course, this image won't be part of the file when you eventually export. Additionally, when you refresh the page, you'll find that the image does disappear, so you will have to re-upload it. Time you have, you may not be able to complete a site in one go. This is where the save functions come in. There are a few and they've been translated to English. Firstly, you've got the web file save and load options. These simply allow you to save your drawing as a JSON file or to retrieve an existing JSON file. Now, the reason you do this is because it allows you to continue editing a site in a previous state, according to what you saved. The site will automatically autosave, as is the name, and you can also force an autosave, in which case you will see this floppy disk icon over here. Finally, once you are satisfied with your design, you can export the site. Now this will create not a JSON file, but a text file. And in that document, you need to copy and paste all the information into your BLK site template in order for it to work. This text document cannot be re-imported back into WT-Draw, which is why you use the JSON files. And in case it wasn't clear, this box here allows you to change the name of your documents. If you notice that your drawing is slightly missized or offset, or you just want to alter the design, you can use the bottom left window here to adjust your drawing by changing the X offset, the Y offset, and the rotation in degrees. If you wish, you can also scale them up or down like so. This green projection is what would happen after you apply the changes, and if you wish to, simply press the apply button and your new drawing is like this. Now please note that you cannot undo this using Ctrl-Z, and therefore I would definitely recommend that you save the unedited version before applying those changes. Happy with your final design, you are very close to seeing it in game. You will only need a template BLK file and your final design text document. Open both, copy from the final design, and paste into the template file, making sure to leave 2 lines of space. Save, and now you can close both. Rename your site to whatever you wish, and now copy that site into your War Thunder game files. Go to the subfolder User Sites, and then All Tanks. You can see all of my previously made sites here. Paste, and now your site appears. To apply your site in-game, simply go to Options, Ground Vehicle Battle Settings, and Site Settings. Here you will see all of your BLK sites that are in your User Sites All Tanks subfolder. Select the one that you wish to select, and save. You can also change for different nations and choose to apply the same site for all vehicles of a certain rank. And now you can see that if I enter a test drive and enter sniper mode, then the site has now been applied. When first using WT-Draw, I found that my first day or two experienced periods of lag. I don't know why this happened, and now the issue is gone. If you're reloading the page, you may find that after the page reloads, you can't zoom in or out. If this occurs, simply reload the page again and it should work. If you find that your site isn't being listed in your game, it may be a simple matter of refreshing the game and updating its files by pressing F9, Function F9, or Alt FN F9. One of those will work for your device. However, you will need to exit Options first. If your site still does not appear, make sure that your file is sound. Firstly, check the name of the BLK file. The game does not allow multi-word reticle files. A simple way to overcome this is using underscores instead of spaces. Also, it does not allow special symbols. Of course, it could be an issue with the contents of your file itself, which I've been lucky not to encounter so far. Also, if you import a file onto a vehicle, but then when you enter sniper mode, an incomplete image occurs, that will be because you have too many lines. According to some searches, the limit is around 2,500 to 3,000 lines, but I doubt you'd get to that point before familiarizing yourself with the workings. When familiarizing yourself with site making, I'd recommend you start simple. Even without exporting anything, just playing around with lines and quadrilaterals will be a good starting point. I kind of threw myself straight into making this site of K since I requested it, but nobody replied, but that's a different story. Basically, even just spending 60 seconds before you start your first actual project is ideal. Especially when tracing an image, it may be tempting to mark down every line and seam you see. Speaking from experience, I have made sites where they are just too many lines, too much detail, making it impractical. Also, not every site needs everything. You can make a site without using quadrilaterals. See what suits your intended product and use it. Don't zoom in too much. Similar to the point above, this is a lesson I actually finally learned when I made my last site. I found myself drawing excessive lines which would follow a contour perfectly, but it turned out to be pointless as not only did I exceed the line count by about 2,000, there was also minimal visual difference when I cut out about 70% of the lines. Shapes are useful for areas of shading or darkness, and I often use them for eyes or specific areas. However, I wouldn't recommend using shapes for the majority of your design unless it is really necessary. This is because, after all, you're designing a reticle, and it's no good having a massive blind spot in your sites. To clarify, locking to a vertex doesn't actually lock your entities as such. It simply locks your cursor so that when you initially sketch, your entities are coincidence. However, you can see that if I move one, the other which was locked won't actually follow it. But know that technically you don't really need to seamlessly link your entities together. If you zoom out, most of the times those gaps just become invisible, and the same will occur in game. Of course, that is provided those gaps aren't atrociously large. However, even if they aren't visible, I like to link my vertices just out of habit anyway. Finally, I really recommend organizing your files. For example, you can see that here I have all my files just for a single site. Mind you, it was my biggest project so far, but my projects still do consistently exceed 10 files each. As a creator, I tend to have a file for the final works and screenshots, and then a subfolder inside that for the drafts and basically the non-final JSON files. So that's it. We've covered what you need, how to draw, and how to create your files. Hopefully you now know everything about how to make a truly custom user site and have fun making them. If this helped you, then please consider giving me a like, and you can find my War Thunder Live profile page in the description below. I am a site creator at the end of the day, so if you have any questions or site requests, please let me know. Until then, see ya.